Hi, Priscilla. How? Did you text?
Hello.
Jane, thank you for getting everything. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
No problem at all. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Box is good too. That's helpful.
Oh, good. I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah.
I'm just going to call her back really quick.
Okay, sure. Thanks. There we go. All set. Okay. I think we're all ready to go. So I'll call the meeting to order. First thing is approval of minutes of the 21st of February. I'll make a motion to approve those minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Thank you, Jane. The minutes are very complete. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Communications. I did get a communication from a resident of West Cornwall who's concerned that the signs aren't up on the covered bridge. So I am going to talk to DOT about seeing whether they can get those replaced as part of the repair project. Any other communications, announcements, coming events, additions to the agenda? Are there any? Hearing
no, that was the only thing. That was the only one I was going to add. You've already covered that, so thank you.
Okay, great. Budget request, Project Sage. Just as an announcement, the Board of Finance, the Cornwall Board of Ed is going to present their budget to the Board of Finance this Thursday night by Zoom, 7:30. I believe the agenda is posted on the website. And their budget at the local school actually went down. So that's good. Slight decrease is helpful this year. So first on our agenda is to welcome Betsy Morrow, Cornwall's own Betsy Morrow, who also is the director, I believe, of Project Sage, formerly Women's Support Services. They have asked for an increase of funding after many years of having the same level. And Betsy has been to our meetings before, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for her just to explain their organization and the good works that they do, and the increased need for funds. So Betsy, 100 welcomes. We do talk once in a while during the year about various activities and occasionally some crises or whatever that has happened. So it's nice to see you here and tell us about your good work.
Well, thank you. And thank you for your good work, all of you, and the making room for me and your busy agenda. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the time just to say hello and open up an opportunity for any questions you might have about our agency. Gordon's already told you that we have recently undergone a name change from Women's Support Services. We were established in 1982. and went from Women's Emergency Services to Women's Support Services, now to Project SAGE. And that transition of name is really about recognizing that domestic violence and intimate partner violence affects everybody. And we were finding that there were people needing support who weren't coming to us because they did not identify as women. And so they didn't know that there was help available right in our own corner of Connecticut. So after a long discussion about how we can reduce barriers so that people can use more of our services, we changed our name to Project SAGE, and SAGE is an acronym, which means support, advocate, guide, and educate. And those are sort of that's the essence of what we do. And so our new name reflects that: support, advocate, guide, and educate. We have all gone through the pandemic, and one of the biggest questions I get is, how did the pandemic affect the services we give? We have a 24/7 hotline for emergency, and we have support services and emergency sheltering and safety planning. And all of those things not only continued through the pandemic, but they increased exponentially. Over the last 2 years, we've had a 30% increase in our client load. We've had a 65% increase in calls to our hotline. We have had a 44% increase in the services that we offer based in Torrington Court to help victims navigate the court system there. We've had over a 200% increase in the number of nights that we've sheltered people. And we've also, even through that time of COVID, when the schools were doing all of their adjustment, we still were able to deliver educational programs. And over 2 years, we've increased that by 40%. So as much as I'd like to work my way out of a job because there's no more need, in fact, we see that the need continues all the time. So we are really grateful for and dependent on a lot of different sources of income to support our work. All of our services are free and confidential. And so we depend on the generosity of others to help us continue our services. So where does our funding come from? It comes from government grants, which cover a portion of what we offer. It comes from individual donors, corporate donors, foundations, local governments like Cornwall and Salisbury and Sharon, and it comes from our fundraiser of Trade Secrets. And over the past few years, we had to put Trade Secrets down for a couple of years during COVID. And so that was a time when people really stepped up to the plate and filled in the gap for us. But what we're finding now is that government funding is decreasing. And so the governor's budget for the state of Connecticut, we have been asking for any support they can give to us. But the reality is the state and federal government funding for us is always looking at a decrease. So our funding source there is a little bit unsure. When we look at all of the services we give, we want to maintain them as free and accessible to all people. And that's particularly true in the school program we do. We get no funding for education, except this year we did get a private grant to help with that, but there are no government grants to help us take programming into the schools. And we are in every school in Region 1 now, from grade 6 through 12, with a curriculum that builds on itself year to year to year. And we really cherish the partnerships that we have with our schools as well. There is a lot I could talk about, but what I really want to know is what you're curious about, because I wouldn't want this time that we have together as an opportunity to really answer what questions you might have about how the agency functions, either in Cornwall or in general, anything you might want to know. So I could keep talking, but I think I want to pause and see if you have questions and curiosities about us.
Yeah, any questions from the board? Janet?
So, hey, Betsy, thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Thank you,
obviously, there's plenty of work to be done, and glad you're here to do it. I'm curious, how many towns do you support? What's your catchment area?
So our catchment area in Connecticut is all the towns that also make up Region 1. And then we also, particularly through Sharon Hospital, serve people from Amenia, sometimes as far as Millbrook, Millerton, and over the border into the Sheffield area.
Okay. And do all of those towns contribute in a like fashion as Cornwall?
Many do. We have not solicited into New York because that's a catchment area that is served by Poughkeepsie. And we are in partnership with Grace Smith House in Poughkeepsie. And so we don't solicit in their service area.
How much? So typically we've given $1,500. How does that compare? And you are looking for $3,000, which seems very reasonable. How does that compare to what you're getting from the other towns in Region 1? Yeah,
it varies. It can vary from about $1,500 to sometimes it's been as much as $3,500. Pretty consistently in one or two towns at $2,500.
So are you asking all the towns for $3,000 this year?
We have.
Okay. Okay. Yep. Thank you very much, Betsy. That answers my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Janet, thank you.
Of course.
Priscilla, any questions? I think you're muted at this point.
You might have questions.
So, so Betsy, obviously the amount you're getting from those towns probably doesn't even cover one worker, let alone the many you have. How does your funding cycle look overall with being able to return to the trade secrets, and how do things? Do you have an endowment? How do things look? You know, long term, because I mean, we are aware that the needs are growing quite a bit during the pandemic.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. We were able to bring trade secrets back last year, and trade secrets on average provides 25% of our operating income year to year. Financially, we do have a little bit of an endowment that provides a spinoff, but as you know, the market has been pretty depressed from where it has been in the past. We really depend on the generosity of a lot of community partners to help us through. And one of the things that we value is not only the dollars, but we value the encouragement that that kind of support gives to us. I have to say, you know, our work is hard. And so every time, you know, we get a donation from somebody who believes in our work, that is as important to us an encouragement as it is to supporting our financial needs.
Yes, Priscilla, do you have any?
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good. Well, as you know, last time I voted for the increased request, and I still favor it. I think that this is a project, Betsy does a wonderful job, and it is so needed by so many people who don't even want to be known.
Thank you. Thank you for that encouragement.
Yes, so is that a motion for the $3,000, Priscilla?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is, Gordon. That's a motion. I'm seconding. Yeah. You made the motion. I'm seconding.
Okay, any discussion? I would just like to say also again, thank you, Betsy, for your hard work. I remember well the vigil that was held at Cornwall Town Hall several years ago in honor of victims of domestic violence, of which some of the attendees there had gone through some rough times themselves. And I think that ceremony, which I believe you bring to all the towns, was one of the most moving events I have seen at Town Hall, and the variety of people that were there. The need for your services was loud and clear that night. So again, very important work, and thank you.
Well, thank you. And as we move through this meeting, I want to remind everyone that I have a phone and I have an email, and I love to talk about the agency if anyone wants to know more or volunteer with us, or just have any questions. My door is open, my phone's available. I'm here for you.
Yeah, I believe there are some Cornwall residents that do help volunteer on your hotline.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
that's
yeah,
an opportunity.
we pay them. We have 4 Cornwall residents on staff.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're actually paid on the
They're
hotline.
actually paid, and you know, our staff has grown. When I got there in 2016, we had about 6 on staff, and we have 12 on staff now.
Yeah.
We're also in a
Great.
new building in Lakeville. We've moved from Sharon to Lakeville, so we're on Porter Street because we outgrew our other building. So a lot of changes happened.
Great. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, thank you, Betsy.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
so much. I
Okay.
really appreciate it and appreciate the dialogue.
Yes, always good to check in. Yes. Okay, take
All
care.
right. Thanks, you too.
Yeah, so switching gears slightly into our compost application, we have had a word back from the state that we actually have a application concierge, which is unexpected but welcome. We had heard that it would take up to 3 months to act on this, and now all of a sudden we have a concierge to help us through the process. So we have a meeting with the concierge set up for next Wednesday. So I plan on, it's a pre-application meeting. So hopefully we can move things along at that meeting. We had a slight development with our application this week, finding out that our transfer station is listed on the state list of endangered species. So we were a little concerned about that. Luckily, Jane did some work on that and talked to the people at DEP, who found that our transfer station is a habitat for the bog turtle, the brown bog turtle, I think, no less. So Jane was able to talk with the woman there and describe the scope of our project. And she, I believe, is going to send us some guidance on how to make our project friendly for endangered species, which I don't think will be a problem. So we're moving ahead with our application. Hopefully we'll have a sense by our next meeting whether we're able to meet our end of April target date for operation. But again, it's good to have the DEP actually take an interest in this and appoint us a person to help us through the process. So that's about where we stand with our compost project. Any comments, thoughts on the compost? There's also going to be, as we know, the Conservation Commission is putting on a big compost day on Earth Day. So hopefully this will be a big day of compost coming up. So next agenda item is the Houstonic Railroad spraying. There was some nice article in the local press about our concerns this week, and I have been in touch with the group that is working on this, and as well as Maria Horn setting up a meeting in April. She would like a list of likely organizations to attend, as well as people that might be there. A lot of times people want to know who's the scope of the meeting, who's going to be there ahead of time. So we're working on getting that list together, but we will, again, it will be in April. It'll be a public meeting. And we will let you know when we get farther along. This group has some letters to support from New Milford to Falls Village, Kat, I believe. So again, multi-town effort to get some action on a sensible vegetation management for the railroad.
What is the group called? Is there a name for the group?
What is the group? I think it does have a name which escapes me at this point.
Okay.
But the Conservation Commission is working on it, as well as Anna Tamel and Bruce Bennett, who's also the tree warden in Kent. So he is liaisoning with Kent. So anything else on the railroad spraying? The spray season, I believe, will not be until late spring. So we do have some time to try to work on the issue. Probably the biggest excitement in town this week has been the army of trucks and bundles of cable that is being installed all over town. I think there's at least a half dozen to a dozen work crews working in all our beautiful recent weather to install the fiber optic. So I'm in touch with Casey Cook, who is our liaison with Optimum. I'm going to try to get more information as far as getting people information as far as what the schedule is for activating the system and potential cost, and really get some decent communications from Optimum on what's going on. But I think their workers seem to be ahead of their public relations, which is better than the other way around. But it'd be nice to know what the schedule is. But it is impressive how much cable is being put out. I'm glad I'm not in charge of having to keep them from getting into a big tangled mess, as there seems to be thousands of feet on the ground at a certain time, but it does seem to be going up well. And we look forward to the details on that. So that's one of the big long-term goals of the town. And we are, seems like it's going along. I believe also Frontier, I need to contact them, because I believe they're also installing fiber optic cable in town. So we need to find that pitch. So we may go from zero to a competitive cable or fiber environment. So that will be a really good thing. So I will keep everyone in the loop about that. Any other comments, thoughts? Seems to be going along. The TRIPS grant, again, I'm trying to set up a meeting when we could walk West Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge, looking for potential locations for sidewalk improvements or crosswalks. I did quickly look through the grant application, and apparently it does need to be at least $300,000 worth of work, which I believe those crosswalks can cost over $100,000 for installation of those systems. So I will ask Steve McDonald, who will be walking West Cornwall soon anyway, to look at some of the things with the wastewater project, if he can get some rough cost estimates on generic crosswalks, one in West Cornwall, one in Cornwall Bridge. I did meet with Will Shank, who's working on the market in Cornwall Bridge, about upgrading his parking and some of the sidewalks in Cornwall Bridge contiguous to the market and across the street. So trying to get that in place also. So any other thoughts on the TRIPS grant? Janet, do you know when the deadline is to get this filed?
The first deadline is they want a preliminary, like an outline of our grant on April 3rd, just to the COG. And the final one's due April 28th.
Okay, so that's coming up quick. So we will definitely try to get a meeting and do some preliminary cost estimates. I don't think we have to have, complete engineering designs and things, but we can at least get cost estimates and a project narrative.
And sketches too. They encourage us to have sketches.
Okay, we do have it.
Rough ones, it doesn't matter.
We do have an actual plan for a crosswalk in Cornwall Bridge. It took us so long to get that the grant ran out by the time we got the sketch, but now we got the sketch ahead of the grant. So we
Excellent.
could maybe recycle that in
Sure.
in Cornwall Bridge just to do it, and also in West Cornwall. West Cornwall is going to be actually tight. It's going to be a tricky place for the crosswalk, I think, because you got the railroad, you got bridges going across the road, you got sidewalks on opposite sides of the street. So again, possible locations. It's not quite as easy to put one in there, but obviously it can be proposed anyway. But we can again have a walking tour of the villages, and try to nail down some of these things, but really concentrate on that at our next meeting so we get something set up for the COG by April 3rd. And I know they have their meeting would probably be the week after that because we meet the second Thursday. So again, trying to get something in place for the April 3rd deadline. Great. Any other thoughts about trips? I think Jane did send you the program guidelines,
yeah.
Eligibility. It is geared towards rural areas. It does talk about bikes. We are working with Terry about that. I could talk to, what I might do is I might double back. I mean, the eligible projects are roadway improvements, signal and bridge improvements, on and off-road bicycle facilities, sidewalks, multi-use trails. So it's sort of interesting. Ineligible uses are right-of-way acquisitions, funding for project design, and relocation of utilities and recreational trails. You cannot have a recreational trail that serve limited group and function. You have to have multi-use trails. So you can't just hike. You got to hike and bike, or hike and canoe, or hike and whatever else. So hike and bike. So anyway, we'll talk to our bicycle enthusiasts. We have been working with Terry Burke on more signage for the Western New England Greenway. I think we're putting up 20, the highway department, Cornwall Highway Department is putting up 20 signs, directional signs for the Western New England Greenway on state roads, probably within the next month. So we will look for those green signs, US Bike Route 7. So Terry's been working very hard on that. I think they're going to have over 200 signs in the region before they're finished. And they've started, I guess they started on the southern end up down in Norwalk. And so they hope to get the whole state of Connecticut covered this year. So that's exciting. Bring people in on 2 wheels to town. And that's part of this. So I will double back with our bike people to see if they have any ideas. Of biking is apparently a big part of this. So any other thoughts on the trips?
Just give a heads up as soon as you can. I'd like to be able to participate in the walkthrough if I can do it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we will. I would imagine we would set the date. Yeah, let me see. We'll publicize that well. So it may be right around the time of our meeting, maybe just before the meeting or whatever, but we'll try to get that out on the website in addition to anything else. So I'm sure people are curious. We might have to have a date, time in West Cornwall and time in Cornwall Bridge, something like that. Double stop. Okay, anything else on the trips? So again, the minimum grant is 300,000. I don't see us spending millions on this, but it could certainly be several $100,000 to put all this in place. It's almost more than you think it would be when you're working on a state road with federal funds for to meet the specifications that you have to put things in those highways. Next, speaking of West Cornwall, the wastewater project, I have been working with Steve McDonald on hiring a consultant to do the environmental report, the famous environmental report. Initially, the federal government was going to do, and they kicked it back to the town. So Steve has gotten a list of potential engineers that the housing and urban development people say are qualified to do the work. He is familiar with one of the groups from Terryville, so he's trying to engage them. I think it probably would take about 2 months to get this report done, and nothing can happen much until that report's done. So again, he and I are trying to expedite, get this group hired so they can do the report and get it into the feds, because again, we've been several months that we've been waiting to get this underway. So we are trying to get that going as quick as we can. The committee will, I will be in touch with Todd about getting a meeting together for next week. So to bring the committee up to date and the public up to date with what's going on with Steve. And again, trying to push ahead, get things going on it. So any other thoughts on the West Cornwall wastewater project? Okay, that brings us to tax refund. Jane has some tax refunds for us. Let's see, so. Let's see.
Do you want me to share my screen for that?
No, I think we're good on that. I think we only have.
There was just one.
There's one for $54.34 for overpayment of personal property tax. So I would make a motion to grant that request of the tax collector for tax refund. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So that is the end of our agenda, except for public comment. Again, reminding people there will be a presentation on Thursday night at the Board of Finance for the Cornwall Consolidated School Budget, and look for a notice to go out about a meeting of the West Cornwall Wastewater Group for next week, next Tuesday. I believe we meet Tuesdays at 5 o'clock. So any public comments? Comments from the press? Comments from it? Hi, Riley.
Hi, Gordon. Hi, everyone. Couple quick questions. First, on the Housatonic Railroad spraying meeting that you're hoping to set up for April, do you have any confirmation from the railroad company? Will they attend that meeting?
I have not yet heard about them attending. They probably will. They've been good at attending meetings in the past on several on these subjects.
Okay. Also, just an update. I was at the North Canyon Selectman meeting last night, and they are interested in joining your cause to discuss with the railroad. So,
yeah. I know Charlie Parati has come to meetings before, and apparently they oversprayed, killed a lot of trees behind McDonald's and stuff. So it's not just a Cornwall problem. It's downtown North Canyon. So that's good. Yeah, all it's good when these towns work together. The voice is much more significant.
Definitely. Yeah. Also, just to clarify, is it Optimum that's setting up fiber optic?
Yeah, Optimum's doing the major rollout, but I have a meeting or a phone call in the end of the month with the director of Frontier, and they already have done some install of fiber optic here too. So I know they're not far behind, but just the amount of cable and the amount of trucks that are putting things out in Cornwall there. That's optimum setting the pace currently.
That's great, thank you. And then one more, Cornwall was listed as the top 100 best small town in America by Family Destinations Guide. And I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts on that or any word to potential visitors of Cornwall?
Well, I mean, we try to be humble and things, but I mean, there are a lot of reasons to come here, and there's also a lot of reasons to live here. And of course, as we live here, we sometimes don't appreciate it as much as people that come here and visit. But you know, just the scope of things that we have as far as recreational opportunities, from, you know, the Appalachian Trail to the ski area to the river, to the hiking trails, again, the Western New England Greenway, the bike trails. They're people that come here. I met some people at the farmers market last summer who would come here from Italy to go bicycling, which again was news, but it's not that surprising. And I think also when you talk to people like at the electric bike store, the amount of people that come here specifically, maybe for different reasons, maybe for the bridge, or maybe they've had some family connections, or maybe they're a fly fisherman, or maybe they're just teaching their kids how to ski. There's a lot of reasons to come here. I'm not that surprised, but it's always good to be recognized. And I think part of it too is that I think our Economic Development Commission and our town in general has been welcoming and encouraging people to come here, and not, you know, and putting out the welcome mat. So I think that is, you know, a reflection of being a welcoming place as opposed to a place that doesn't welcome people. So again, I always feel like the town's enriched by new people coming, visiting, even for a short period of time. And a lot of times those people who visit put down roots. So it's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. Somebody mentioned that. I said, oh, well, there you go. It's funny. Yeah, but we're in good company there.
Yeah, they called it a rural gem, and I definitely agree. So
that's it. There you go. Okay, got it. Maybe that's our new slogan, a rural gem. How about that? Good. Okay, thank you, Riley. Any other comments from the public? Anyway, thank you all for coming to the rural gem, and we'll leave on that high note. Anyway, thank you all. Good night. See you soon.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks, Jane.
Thank you. Let me know if next time you want me to stop over and I can help you
Okay.
get the
Will
link
do.
working beforehand.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.